Hello everyone, today we're going to be learning about fractions. What is a fraction? Well, a fraction is basically a part of a whole. Let's look at this pentagon here. This pentagon is made up of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts. It's been split up into 5 parts. So each of these parts is a fraction of the whole. When we talk about parts of a whole, we're also talking about equal parts. So you'll notice that all 5 of these parts are equal, right? They're the same size. They're not smaller or bigger than one another. They have to be equal. All right, so in this pentagon, we have a total of how many parts? We have a total of 5 parts. And you'll see that down here. And how many of these parts are shaded? We have 1 part that's shaded, right? So that's why the 1 goes on top. The top number is called the numerator. This number tells us how many parts out of the whole that we're talking about. So right now we're talking about 1 part of the whole, so that's why it's a 1. Now earlier, when we talked about there are 5 parts in total, this number on the bottom here is called the denominator. This number tells us how many parts are in the whole, in total. Okay, so the total number of parts goes on the bottom. That's called the denominator. So D for down, denominator, it stays down. Okay, and the top number is the numerator, and that's how many parts we're talking about. So if in this pentagon, if we had 2 parts shaded, what would our fraction look like? Well, 2 parts are shaded out of the whole, so 2 is our numerator on top. We're talking about 2 parts. Then we're going to draw the line, and we have how many parts in total? We have 5 parts in total. So this fraction here represents this picture here with the 2 parts shaded. Okay, now what if we had 3 parts shaded? What would our fraction be? Well, we're talking about 3 parts, and we have 5 parts in total. So our fraction would be 3/5. Now what if we had 4 parts shaded? Well, our fraction would look like, we're talking about 4 parts, and there are how many parts in total? There are 5 parts in total. So our fraction would be 4/5, or 4/5. And of course, if we had all parts of this pentagon all shaded in, our fraction would be 5/5, right? Which equals 1 whole, because you have all 5 out of 5. So it's not a fraction anymore, it's the complete thing, it becomes a whole. So a fraction is something that's smaller than a whole. It's a part of the whole. Do you remember what else is smaller than a whole number? If you remember decimals, you're correct. Fractions and decimals are also related. We'll go into that later on in the next few weeks. Okay, on to the next page. Alright, so before you get started on this page, I want you to make sure that you've really absorbed all the information from the lesson. Okay, so if you don't remember what a fraction is or what the parts of a fraction are, make sure you go back to the lesson, relearn it, really understand it, and remember all the parts of a fraction and what a fraction is. And then come back to this page and try to complete it without peeking at the poster we gave you in this work pack. If you really can't remember, then you can refer back to the poster. So the first part is, what is a fraction? So do you remember what a fraction is? You're going to write your answer down on those lines there. And then we're going to talk about parts of a fraction. So we have our numerator here. The numerator is the top number. All right, so what is the numerator? You're going to write your definition there. Okay, and down here we have the denominator. The denominator we know is the bottom number. But what is the denominator? What does the denominator tell us? You can write your answer there. Okay, now it says here to shade in this fraction. So this fraction is 3/4, right? How many parts in total are we talking about in this fraction? We're talking about 4 parts in total, right? And as you can see in this rectangle, we also have 4 parts. So figure out how many parts you need to shade, okay? All right, on the next page, Fractions are everywhere, so for today's activity, think of all the different ways that fractions are used in real life. Think of different examples, ask family members for ideas, record your ideas in the space below, create a list, draw pictures, or you can even cut and paste examples you find. So maybe you can find them in flyers or magazines. Here's a hint. We use fractions a lot in the kitchen. So if you don't know where to start there and then move on to elsewhere, okay? All right, that's it for today. If you have any questions, you can find us on Seesaw.